Hey, this is Ricardo from Alternova. Today we're going to be reviewing a very cool flow that I did not too long ago that uses OpenAI to generate content. Can be a blog post, a LinkedIn post, or even a Lovable prompt based on some parameters that you pass to it, and you can decide whether to have it do deep research before writing the content or not. So let's jump into it. So the way this works is we start with a form. Once we have the form, we're going to define several values. So we're looking for the project. This is an internal variable that we use. We have two types of projects at our marketing team. We're either writing about our EHR or our brand. We have the type of content, which, as I mentioned, is blog post, LinkedIn post, or landing page. This landing page will generate a prompt for Lovable.dev, which I love. We define an audience. So our audience is early stage health tech startup founders considering alternatives for EHRs. Then we set a prompt, like what do we want this AI to be talking about? So in this case, it's going to be a blog about the building blocks of a modern EHR. And we're going to be covering components as patient records, scheduling orders, clinical notes, etc. We're going to add some keywords which are important for our blog post SEO, and we're going to decide whether we want to do deep research or not. Once we have that, we have our first switch. We check whether the project is Alternova or ANEHR, and then we set our first variables. This is something that I do a lot during this flow, and the reason is that I like to be very strict with this variable creation so that it helps me debug as I am building. So in this case, we had selected an EHR, so we set the collection variable to EHR docs. We're going to be using this variable a lot, so it is important. And then we immediately do another set variable, and this is going to create another variable that's called collection. So in N8N, there are no global variables, so it doesn't matter if it's called the same. The reason why I don't pass it directly is because I like to have this for debugging purposes. So if I run this, oh, it's already running, then I know that the collection here is going to be EHR docs. Well, if I don't have it, I might have some issues at some point with knowing which one of these two did what. Then we have another if here, and we're going to check if this is a deep research query or not, and we're going to go with the yes route. So once we have taken this route, we have a system prompt and a user prompt. These are very useful for OpenAI tasks. So our system prompt is going to have just an overall request for the OpenAI agent to just follow these guidelines to get the information on the topic that we have. And the research prompt has the user prompt has the same prompt that we had from the form. Then we perform the deep research. We use the OpenAI API. The reason for that is that at the time of creation, N8N didn't have a way to query the responses API with a deep research request. And we pass in the JSON the variables of the research system prompt and research user prompt that we just set in the previous step. Then we set two variables. We save a record ID. So what we do here is we call these our research loop, and we give it a code which is based on our time zone that gives us a semi-unique ID for this, and then we go to error table and we save this with the record ID, right? So that ID that I just created, I pass it as the record ID, and it's going to create it, and it's going to write the number of loops that we have done. So why? Because we're going to be looping until OpenAI has finished doing the research. So this is a process that can take 5 to 10 minutes. I think that now with GPT-5 it can be faster. So we're going to be waiting 30 seconds, and then we're going to send another request to the API. We're going to pass the ID of the thread or of the chat, and with that we're going to be able to know whether that deep research is complete or not. So once it is completed, the loop can finish, but while it continues to be false, then we're going to be checking the loop value in which we are. We're going to be increasing that value, giving it a +1, and then we're going to have a maximum of 20 loops, which is 600 seconds. And then we update that loop number, and we go back, and then we do it until it has finished. Once the research is completed, then we are going to be sending to set the research response. If the unfortunate case of the maximum loops being reached is achieved, then we would send an empty research response, and we would also be sending an empty research response if the user decides not to do the deep research. So we get the value or the output from the research, and once we have that, we set it in another variable called research output. Remember, this might not be necessary, as you might be able to connect these 3 nodes to the switch, but I really don't like to work like that. I like to be able to debug my variables very easily. So then we're going to be switching between the type of content that we selected when we filled the form. In this case, it is a blog post, but as you can see, we have prompts for either a blog post, a LinkedIn post, or a Lovable prompt. So we have both system and assistant prompts for each one of those, and these are very well defined. I also use ChatGPT to help me create this. I'm going to follow this route, which I think covers most of the functionality. So once we have either blog post or LinkedIn post, we set another prompt for the assistant and the system, and then we create a file name, which is mostly just a blog post, and so post and the date, and the .markdown, which is the format in which we like to have our posts made on. And then we generate the draft of that post, right? So we sent the prompts. We sent both assistant and system prompts. You can read more about what those are in the OpenAI documentation, and then it runs, right? But you can see here that we have some tools. So we have a vector database with some embeddings that can help the model have additional context about our company and about the type of content that we like. So, for example, we have a vector collection for brand documents. So I have a bunch of documents here. By the way, this is called Quadrant, and you can just come here and create a cluster. There are free clusters, and I will show you in a second after we finish this how do I manage these embeddings without a headache. This is all not too sophisticated. There are ways to make it even more complex, but basically I just have the collections, and as you can see, the variables that I set at the beginning, they're used everywhere. And so what I have in the brand docs is just information about my brand, how we talk, the colors that we use. We also have some documentation on the EHR that the open source EHR that we host on our hosting service. And we also have a couple examples of what an exciting post looks like for us. So since this is a vector database, you need to select an embedding model. So I just used the text embedding 3 small from OpenAI. So very basic configurations, and then we pass the prompts. We have the user prompt that comes from the form, and we have the assistant and system prompts that we saved in variables before. Then we take the answer from the message that we sent to the OpenAI message, and we save that in a variable called result. And as you can see here, we also do a little bit of code to remove additional and unnecessary text that it was sending to me, and then we also remove some of the last characters. This might or might not happen to you depending on the model that you're using. Then we convert that into a file. So we turn that into a text file because we use Markdown. Those are text files. And finally, I uploaded to my Dropbox account. I have already the credentials set up in N8N, and I select the file upload operation, and I pass the path, and this is on my root folder in my Dropbox account. And then it is going to be saving here the file name that we set a few steps ago here. So then the process finishes for us. We take that, and since it is a Markdown, we manually review it, we play with it. We might do some additional manual iteration with our team, or even with other AIs. And then we will publish it or use it for further research on a topic that we want. So that is our flow. But that's not the end of this video, because there's a lot more to cover here. So we are going to check now how I add stuff to our vector store. So I also built a flow for selecting a file. I can just pass a path from my Dropbox and the name of the file. We will download that file from Dropbox. Then we will switch depending on the type of file. And it doesn't have to be too smart about that. Like, we do have an extension drop down where you select whether you're uploading a PDF or a doc or an Excel file, and if it's a PDF file, it takes this route. The Word route we never completed because we never use Word files. And we do an extraction of a PDF with this extract from PDF node, N8N always helping us to do things very easily. We set that text, and we then set that same variable or that same value as the variable that we want to pass to the vector store. If we have an extraction from an Excel file, we extract that first with an Excel extractor node, but then we pass it through and we tell the prompt to give us the information that is on the Excel file as a markdown. We set, depending on the path that we selected at the beginning of the form, we select which variable we're going to save this here on, and finally that collection is one of these collections where things are going to be saved, and then we use the quadrant vector store node where we tell it that we want to save it by ID, and we tell it how big it can be, the batch of the embeddings that we're going to be passing, and we use the same text embedding 3 small. You have to make sure that this is the same model that you're using here, otherwise that's not going to work. And then you also have to do a data loader with data that you're passing to it. So yeah, so basically this is the document that you're passing to it, as this one doesn't receive anything else other than the collection as a variable. And then after this runs, then you have your information on your vector store. And then I also created a couple things here. These are just for testing and for managing the vector store. I created a simple flow here that I can execute, pass a collection name, and then it'll create the collection with preset variables that I had created. So the size of vectors and all these configs. And you can probably prompt ChatGPT to help you with all of these things, as they might be a little bit complex if you are not entirely sure about what you're doing. And with this one, it's just a list. I just want to be able to make sure that whatever I created exists correctly on the vector store. And I also have a node here that is disconnected. If I wanted to create a new vector store or a new collection, I would connect this here, and then after creating the collection in Quadrant, it's going to create the folder on my Dropbox for me to put the different content on so that it can be read in order to put it into the store. So that's it. That's how it works. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think this could be made better, easier, more efficient. If you have any questions, reach out on the comments and I'll try to reply and guide you through whatever you need to do. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.